What is cracking, guys? JP here again, bring you another update of my 40-gallon reef tank. So today's update, I'm gonna go through some of my improvements, some new gear, some things I've been going through, and anything changes. First gear is I finally upgraded to a Canon M50. Now, as you know, this camera is about $500 $600 with all the gear. So yeah, not so bad. Better. It's a lot better than my Samsung S4. As you know, there's already a S10. I've been using that phone since I started keeping my fish tank. Crazy, right? I was having some focusing issue, some brightness issue, so it was definitely a big upgrade to me. Now, I'm using this with a microphone, so hopefully the audio is pretty good. This is my first time using this camera. I'm not a pro, or like I said, I'm just learning, so hopefully it will turn out pretty well. All right, the next thing is I was battling with some dino. Now, the story is I started, adding some fish. As you can see, I have more fish here now. And during my quarantine period, what I noticed is when I quarantine my fish, I noticed this brown film, like dusty, on the glasses. I wasn't sure if it was diatoms or dino. So I'm assuming it was diatoms because I didn't see any bubbles that dino have that significant or a characteristic. So I guess I added some fish into my tank and introduced some dinospores or anything on that water. As you know, fish are wet unless you rinse them with some tank water before you add them in. Then that's one way you can prevent it. But I should have did a blackout on my system, on my quarantine system, before I added any fish at all. So that could have killed all the dino at all. But nevertheless, we make mistakes in our hobby, and that's how we learn. Now, in this system, I've been dealing that for a month now. Before, I used to just siphon it, remove the dino of the water, and mechanically filter it and reuse the water. I stopped doing water changes. I stopped dosing any chemicals, stopped dosing any additives. I only dose the essential stuff like alkalinity, calcium, maybe some phosphate and nitrates here and there. So, but nevertheless, I was kind of losing the battle. So finally, last week, I did major changes. I did a 3 day blackout, basically no lights in the fuse, and covered my tank for 3 days. I only fed the fish once a day with flakes and make sure that everything is in there and look peaked here and there. But finally, after 3 days, I noticed big differences. Before, I used to have this brown slimy stuff all over the back glass, all of my equipments and my heater on the right side and my pump, and especially the GSP rock on the front of you. I would be covered with brown stuff. So now, after 1 week, I finally noticed big improvements. There is not so much brown stuff anymore. It's more like greener now. So that's a good sign. I have not seen any remnants at all, only for a day or two. After the 3 day blackout, you'll notice some better improvement on your rocks and your glass. You won't have that brown. But once you notice on your rock, after 1 day of the blackout, this rock right here, the GSP, would be covered with brown slimy dino. It would disappear in the night, but would come back during the day. So what I did is after I noticed that the dino would start coming back, I removed the rock. I rinsed it with water, like tap water, and basically blasted all of the dino out and rinse it out and put it back in. The mushroom was not happy. The GSP was not happy for a day or two, but I have not noticed the dino come back at all for 3 days. So that's a much better solution. What I noticed while I was battling the dino is, you don't let it overtake your system. Once it overtakes, then you have a problems. You'll have corals dying off because dino will have some toxin that will kind of kill the corals. Even my snail that I've been keeping for 4 years was not happy because every time they eat algae, there was dino, and dino have some toxic chemicals, I guess, in their stuff. So that was not good. Don't let it overtake you. This next thing is once you start seeing dino, make sure you deal with it right away as soon as possible so it doesn't overtake. Kind of like aptasia. If you see aptasia, you want to prevent it before going in your tank, and then once you see it, you want to remove it out of your system. Remove the aptasia before it start overtaking your system. So in this system, I never had dino. Like I said, for 4 years, never had aptasia for 4 years. And since I started adding the new fish, I introduced some spores in the fish and contaminated my system. But overall, this is the first week that I don't see any dino coming back at all, so that's a good sign. The next thing is I lowered my light on my refugium. Before, was using it for 12 hours a day during the night, and it was too much. It was sucking too much nitrates and phosphate out of the water and causing the corals to kind of wither away. So the next thing is I lowered it to 8 hours. Now that was still too much. It was sucking too much of the nutrients, and it was creating this cyanobacteria on top of the chaetomorpha and basically suffocating the algae out of light. So now I finally reduced it to 4 hours, and so far I have not seen any kind of algae coming back at all. So that's a good sign. The next benefit for me of having the blackout and reducing the light is my corals have more nutrients available in the water. As you can see, all my torch coral right there on the right are more exploded, basically. They're more extended, they're more happy. They're basically like a forest now. Crazy. All my stalks of the corals, let's lower this down a little bit here. All of the stalks of the corals basically kind of, it's like a little twigs now. And the top is like a little tree. Crazy. My gold hammer, this is my big indication if the water is not good, is this guy would be the first one to get pissed off, or it's not as extended. But this one right here is pretty extended to me, so he's pretty happy. That's good. Alright. Overall, all my fishes, all of my corals are doing pretty well. All of my blue-green chromis. Now for the fish update, all of my blue-green chromis are doing pretty well. I have not seen any fighting. They might have some bickering. If you keep freshwater African cichlid, especially the mbuna, that's what they do. They have a hierarchy, pecking order, and they'll kind of pick at each other, but there is no damage. So that's a good sign. My best tip, if you do get blue-green chromis, the first step you want to buy is buy quality, healthy blue-green chromis. Now, if you see some red lesion or some unhealthy fish, do not buy on that tank at all. Do not buy, because that lesion could be some disease that you don't want to get in your system and can kill all the blue-green chromis, and that's a lot of people basically will have less success. The next step is buy them all at once. So don't buy 2 chromis here, there, and there. Buy them at all in a group. So I got them all 7 at one tank at my fish store. They were all in the same group, and that was good because they already have a pecking order, and that kind of helped them out. And if you kept African cichlid before, if you add new fish in your already established system, that new fish will get killed unless you add like 5 of them or 6 at a time. So I think that's what happened in the blue-green chromis in this situation. Oh, look at my blenny. You can see, he likes to perch right there now. But yeah, next step is feed them a lot, either with flakes. What I worked out in the first time is if you get new fish or blue-green chromis, you can use spirulina brine shrimp, and you can feed them like 2 or 3 times a day, and that really helped them establish and become more comfortable. I've been feeding, you need to train your fish. I started feeding them my brine shrimp. They would not eat mysis. And then after a while, they start eating mysis, and that's good. And they already ate flakes anyway. But the next step right now is I'm trying to train them eating little pellets. So that's the next step. All right. My next thing is my firefish. Now, this firefish has been pretty good citizen in my tank. They have been together since I got them. I think they've been a pair since then. So that's good. If you keep firefish, it's usually one because they like to fight each other. They don't like to keep with each other. But yeah, overall, they have been pretty good citizens, and they like to stay each other. They might bicker here and there. They kind of like to give kisses on each other, I would say. No damage, no fin damage. They just like to know that it's you. It's the other fish. So that's good. Next step is my Banggai Cardinal. I'm not really sure about this guy. You know, I got two of them, but they don't really like going together. Sometimes I see them going, swimming together, but not like firefish or my other fish at all. But hopefully they will become a pair. I'm assuming they were all male, but they don't chase each other down because they're still pretty small. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're Banggai Cardinal. They're pretty peaceful. The next one is my miracle fish, Royal Grama. Look at that. I got two of them. I thought I was going to sell one of them because I was starting to suspect that both of them are males, and because I was started seeing some fighting. But this fighting, they don't bite at each other. Look right there. See that? They don't really bite at each other. They're more like they say hi to each other. I don't see any fin damage, no scales torn off. But sometimes they kind of do this. They like say hi, and then one kind of just backs down, and then they don't really chase out. What for me is fighting is basically chasing across the tank, trying to bit off the fins of the fish until it dies. They've been doing this for since I got them. It's kind of like old couple. If you have an old couple, they're not like happy all the time. They fight, argue, and such, and that's what they do. So I'm gonna keep them. Hopefully, they will turn out pretty well. I never had any problems. This guy likes the big. I'm guessing this is the lady. Likes to keep in that cave right there. The other one likes to keep it back on that sponge right there or in the front right here. But most of the time they stay together right here in the front. Uh, if I'm not here, they would just swim together, just look around. They don't even fight, they just swim together. So that's a good sign. So yeah. What I notice is for Royal Grama is when you first get them, they like to hide in their spot or a cave, and they would chase any fish away, especially blue-green chromis or firefish. But over time, they start to get more comfortable. They realize that these fish are not as a threat to their territory, so they might be more lenient afterwards. But overall, if my best tip is if you get a Royal Grama, they're both are all are born female, but the dominant will become a male. So if you get two of them, make sure you get them at the same time on the same tank and introduce them at the same time and quarantine them at the same time because they will turn into a male even if there's no other Royal Grama. My Blenny is doing pretty well. Before, my tail spot Blenny right there. Before, he would only hide on one spot back here behind the green hammer. But now he find a little hole that he likes to watch and learn about me. Here you go. Here's the other Royal Grama. And here they are. Look at that. See? See? They don't really fight. See? Look at that. They swim together. They don't chase each other. They just like to stay high and be like an old couple. They stay together. So that's good. They don't chase any other fish. Look at that. See? Pretty good. So I think hopefully over time these guys will become more friendly to each other, or if it got worse, I don't know. Probably. Hopefully not. All right. Pretty good. All right. So hopefully that wraps it up. Hopefully you like my little update, guys, and stay safe out there. So far, I was thinking of selling some torch coral, but you currently, I don't want to have any strangers coming in my house. looking at the fish and your coronavirus and such. So I don't really want to deal with that. So maybe in the future, I'll sell some frags here and there because this tank is getting overgrown with the fire torches. Crazy. All right. Well, like I said, thanks for watching, guys, and stay safe out there and happy reef keeping. Adios.